And 5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It's Lunchtime in Rome. Tonight's episode 261 is titled Mike Hatch. Mike is an author, speaker, leader of men, and most of all, husband and father. We'll be talking with him at the table this evening, so pull up a seat and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or watch us live or later on YouTube at Lunchtime in Rome. that's one of the things I was trying to intentionally do was find those moments, almost like in the office with Pam and Jim, they take their
Mental
their
snapshots.
mental snapshots. I kept trying to do that. And to me, that was the highlight of the whole time. It was just the ability for really good humans to exist with each other and build each other up and to laugh and to come away with just a really good time.
Man.
So
And that's a gift not everybody gets. And we get a lot of them.
we get a lot of them. Can't believe we get to do this.
As Brian's tagline. Can't believe we get to do this. Doesn't matter what we're doing.
There's times you look around and you're like, how did we get here? Like what combination of things, God's grace, all that stuff. It's just because there are so many people that never ever get to taste even a hint of it.
I mean, I've told you that somebody very close to me once said, "Wow, it must be nice to have good friends." And I was like, "That's sad."
Yeah.
Because it was a good person saying that. It wasn't like well, you are a jerk.
Yeah.
So you should try to work on that.
Yeah.
Is that your whole update?
Yeah, I would. Well, I would add, Eric and I banged out a pretty a good meal on Monday night. I give us high fives.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
little grilled steak?
You'd have been proud.
I was proud. Amy told me about it.
Yeah, everybody. Paul especially was Mr. Peachy. Was these scallops are really really good. Yeah. So
How'd you do them?
some butter. I think, like you told me before, about a minute and a half, minute on each side, in butter. And I didn't have any parsley to decorate.
Any wine
it.
in there?
No wine.
Yeah, it's cool.
Just
simple.
butter,
Yeah,
and then
salt.
some lemon juice.
Oh yeah, got to go lemon.
So,
And actually, I don't do lime. I don't do wine with the scallops. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's
you
more
do
of
it
a
with
mussels thing,
right?
Yeah,
we
or
didn't.
clams.
We didn't do the mussels. We did shrimp, which I actually deveined. Like, dude, that's a commitment for you. Like when you're like,
Well,
you're
he's my
sitting-
deveiner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both you guys like,
That's a labor of love. I'm fine just eating a poop.
yeah.
Is
Wait,
deveining
Shrimp.
shrimp, is it just taking the shell
No,
off? Or it
that's-
sounds way more involved than that. I'm not
So
familiar.
the back of the shrimp, you'll see there's a little black line, and so
Sure.
you can cut the back. That's their poop track.
Yeah.
And so
they're
you wanna
like
pull that out.
gastrointestinal system.
If you don't do
You're
that,
eating shrimp poop, but
That's why sometimes it's a little crunchy, maybe.
I mean, how
I
much
haven't
poop
really
is it?
noticed.
Yeah. Well, now you will. And
Yeah, right.
With all due respect, and by the way, Chris is just not with us tonight, but we think Chris 2.0 might be here. He's got the same laugh. He's got the same flannel. So, Mike, one thing is, as we get to you, and he's got the beard already.
Yeah,
Chris is
yeah.
warming up to his winter beard.
Yep.
You got to say really inappropriate, awkward things so that we can put them at the end when we do the drops.
I will do
If
my
you're really
best.
Chris, I mean, we want you to be Mike.
if you're really Chris,
Most men want to be Chris. Let's be honest. I mean, they're striving for that.
Oh, and I actually was a little bit nervous grilling the steak
yeah.
because
No.
I was sous vide-less.
Yeah,
You know, I've been doing steak in the sous vide and just finishing on on the grill. Or
you haven't
on the-
grilled many
on the-
recently.
Well, I've grilled them, but I've sous vide them
First.
Right.
And we didn't have a meat thermometer, which I asked about getting, and Eric was like, "Well, we could just do the hand test." And he starts doing this thing with his hand. I'm like, I don't know what that
Fingers.
is,
Right.
but they were good.
Yeah, they came out good.
Well, and the thing is, I don't even grill them after I sous vide them because, well, the grill's just not that hot to get a sear, and you're going to overcook it. I fear overcooking it
On the grill.
on the grill.
Yeah.
After a sous vide,
Yeah. More often than not, I do them on the cast iron.
sear them up.
One last thing, and this wasn't Ocean City, but when we got home last night, I had some extra corn on the cob that I bought there, cooked it up, and I was like, I'm going to make some Mexican street corn.
Nice.
You shouldn't mix up cinnamon with cumin, but that's what I did. I was making the street corn, and I'm dumping something in, and I'm like, that's about enough cumin. Nope, that's...
Oh, so you didn't
That's
intentionally
cinnamon.
do
Oh,
cinnamon
no,
and cumin.
no.
Who are you? Me?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so, but... What, did you do that before?
Remember the apple cinnamon oatmeal and the burgers?
That's right. So, anyways, that's my update.
They're sort of in the same family, though, but you're going Middle Eastern at that point, or Indian. You're getting because those are all warming spices.
Look, it's not bad. I'm eating it.
You were
Like,
having it was Moroccan street corn.
There it is.
I was gonna say, did you finish it and eat it?
Working on it tonight at dinner and last night at dinner. Yeah.
What was the verdict in the house?
It was good. I don't want to do it again. I
Right.
mean, I want to make it more with the zesty, limey. I want to have that. But
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it did kind of overwhelm everything else.
Sure.
But
The corn wasn't allowed to stand for itself.
it wasn't
anymore.
allowed that.
Right. So Saturday night, Rachel's friends from high school came over, which is a big deal because they're from the North Hills, and they
Narnia.
That's like all the way on the other side of the river.
exactly. And they came to see the deck, and the weather held off, and so we had a really nice time on the deck, and everybody's supposed to bring something. And then her one friend was like, "Well, I'm kind of disappointed, like beforehand, because it doesn't sound like there's going to be enough protein there."
What?
All right.
Is that a challenge?
Yeah. Well, so I took one of
Sounds like a bet to me.
one of the I think it's a sirloin steaks.
How much cow would you like tonight?
from our cow that we had, and it was literally a Flintstones sirloin. I mean, it was like the butcher is lazy of the cow we got. Like he just was just like whack whack whack. Just have these huge
Some of the
brontosaurus.
rib steaks.
I had to cut mine in half.
Yeah.
Some of the rib steaks are just too thick.
Yeah, like 3 inches thick.
Yeah.
Like, bruh, make another cut.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe
Anyhow.
two.
But I got a bunch of good cheeses from Penn Mac. And I got one, Eric, we on the disc golf trip had that blueberry cheese
Yeah,
that we said tasted like cheesecake.
yeah.
Well, I got this Westleydale lemon honey that, and I'm not a cheese monger, I'm not a cheese snob. It was the brightest cheese I've ever had in my life. Like you put it in your mouth and it tasted like somebody squirted a lemon rind in your mouth.
In a good
You
way.
open your mouth, sunshine.
Yeah, but like you
sunlight's
don't want
coming
2
out.
bites. Exactly. I didn't even brush my teeth that night. It was,
Birds are.
exactly. But yeah, like you don't want a second bite.
Yeah.
But for one bite, you're like it was just refreshing. It was really crazy.
That's not the blueberry cheese.
no, this was a lemon Wesley.
Refreshing cheese. That's something I would never thought
Yeah,
of.
it was ridiculous, but it was a really nice time and it was fun, and we had a bunch of heavy, I would say, conversations because it's I don't know, there's maybe like 9 or 10 of us, and these people's parents are isn't doing well, and this one's going to hospice, and this guy just got the one guy was in charge of the reserves up at the Trump rally, and literally swept the plane for bombs before Trump took off afterwards. Like he's that high up.
That's
And he's talking about Joe and if Joe doesn't go full time, that he'll be able to take care of him and make sure he gets in the right different, whatever. And, it's just one of those great times. Like we just said, like when you're just like, man, this is awesome. Good food. I got to make street corn. I didn't put the cinnamon in, but maybe
May I
next
encourage
time.
you to not do that?
Made a bad version of my green goddess dressing over parsley.
Like
had,
you do.
Had a little too much bite. Plus end of season parsley, so could have a little, or end of season basil too. But it's fine. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna pull through.
Well, it's good. You guys had a good time.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I think I'll do it now. We're very grateful for those who sit at the head of the table, and that would be Laurie Ann, Bethany Jaworski, Mary Lynn, Ashley, Breaking 90. If you want to sit at the head of the table and get all the perks that Chris is working on right now,
As we speak.
you just go to lunchtimeinrome.com and you become a paid subscriber, and that helps us keep this podcast going. Another thing you can do to help keep this podcast going is to comment, to reach out to us, to leave a review, certainly, and or but we'd love to communicate with you guys. Somebody just the other day said to me, I was listening to the podcast, and I was like, really? Why? It blows our mind, and so we're grateful for that. But we're even more grateful for the fact that my guy, Mike Hatch, is with us tonight. The applause.
Oh, yeah.
Where's my? Okay, good. Thank you. I feel very firm now.
So, Mike, we don't necessarily need to hear an update, but in general, before we go deep, how is Mike Hatch today, besides being exhausted and tired?
Let me see here. It's 8:59. So typically around 8:30 p.m., I tend to bed down, as I call it. So I will.
Wait, what kind of an animal beds down? A
You
horse?
say deer.
Deer?
Deer.
Yes.
Bear. I think
Bear,
bear
probably.
bed
They
down.
hibernate,
Yeah.
though. They bed
Well,
down.
it's bedding down.
Yeah.
All right, you're in good company.
So
then.
I will go up to my room, grab a good book, sit in bed, read, journal, listen to a podcast or scripture or whatever. I like being able to just chill for a little bit and then just flick the light off, turn over, and fade off to sleep around 9:30.
Wow.
So
That's a great end of the
What
day.
time do
you
you get
guys
up?
have about 15 minutes.
Are you an early riser then?
Oh yeah,
Yeah?
5 o'clock, man.
Gosh.
Every morning
With an alarm or without the alarm?
with an alarm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're disciplined in it. It's not like your body's constantly waking you up.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah. I haven't gotten to that point. That would be amazing. I've heard of people who get to that point where they don't need an alarm. They just wake up. Their body just.
That's the best wake up.
Look up Andrew Huberman.
I do it 3
He-
times a day.
Andrew Huberman teaches you how to reset your circadian clock. It's very
like
cool.
going like camping. I've heard of that before.
Just by being consistent for like 30 days and doing certain things, like so yeah, just look him up and he has a
You
whole
don't know
morning routine.
Huberman?
It sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
I'm
He
positive.
made the
I do.
rounds like big time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's still making the
Well,
rounds.
then it turns out he had like 4 girlfriends, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's the worst."
but he does a lot of good other things too.
He does great.
Yeah. No, I mean it's stuff that I've been listening to him. I've been doing, and it really has changed a
I bought
lot.
Celtic salt.
Did you?
Take a little pinch every
First
morning.
thing in the morning, yeah.
Never been more hydrated.
Hydrate yourself, yeah. It's
So
crazy.
hydrated, it's ridiculous.
Celtic salt.
Is it
And
to
that's-
help you drink more water?
I just heard it on the internet.
It's
The
good for your
internet's never
electrolytes.
wrong.
They're
Yeah.
natural electrolytes.
Yeah, because you sleep all night, so, and then you get up and go to the bathroom, and then you're depleted. So you add a little bit of.
It helps your body absorb the water better.
What's different?
I don't know.
You know, there's some guy
I
like
was chewing thyme a year ago to help my cardiovascular system. Or
there's some
my
guy selling Celtic
little
salt.
dry
that too.
thyme.
There's some guy selling Celtic salt, and he's like, "These guys are idiots. Salt.
Idiots.
I just put a label on it."
Jim Gaffney.
No, it is different.
Okay.
It is different. It's
I was gonna.
Is it
not
different
even-
color?
it's kind of bluish.
Huh.
When you open
thought
it up,
green.
little bagpipes play.
Yeah. Even though
Scottish, leave me alone.
So
Sorry,
anyways,
somebody with a lyre comes out.
That's so good.
so anyways, you.
No, I am happy to be here, you guys. I am really excited to be here. And Jay and I go way back.
How far back?
Well, it would be, let me see here, 44. So I think about 19 or 20 years old is how old I was when we first started,
Really?
I guess, meeting, because that was when I started doing Young Life at West Allegheny High
Yeah.
School. And I would go hang out with you for lunch or someone else like OJ or Chris Buda or something.
Wait, were you a Young Life kid, or were you're saying like you were in the volunteer, like?
Yeah, I was a volunteer. I was a volunteer leader at West Allegheny High School myself and a couple other folks with us. But it was our own kind of ministry, but so we didn't have a staff person over us or anything. And so we just we were adopted. I was adopted, I felt like, by Jay. And so he would meet with me and encourage me and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was the metro director at the time. So since
Yeah.
they didn't have a staff person, it was like, okay, well, I'll sort of quasi oversee the area.
Yeah.
But I thought you were kind of older by the time we started really hanging out.
I mean,
Because I thought you were
think
team leader by that point.
It could have
Either
been
way,
early
somewhere in
20s.
there, sure.
probably early 20s. Yeah.
And that's how far back we go.
So you guys have known each other for what, about
20 years ish.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying to somebody else.
Yeah, about 20 years.
With a major gap in the middle.
Right. Yes. Yeah, we moved to Chicago
Oh.
for 9 years, my wife and I went on staff with Young Life out there, served
wow.
out there, and then moved back in 2013, was here in Pittsburgh then, and honestly got just tied up in church ministry, which just chewed me up and then spit me out. So,
at a church?
yeah, and so after that, yeah, right, at a church, can you believe it?
Crazy. It happens.
Yeah.
I've
Church
heard
is
of it.
good. Church is good.
Yeah.
But church can be tough.
Filled with people.
It's full of people
right.
that are fallen.
Before we get to that, besides being tired, how is life right now?
Life is good. Like there's stress involved.
Sure.
Absolutely. So over the last couple of years, been trying to build a new ministry and business, and so there's been all sorts
Ministry
of crazy,
in business or and business?
both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
He sells ministry to people.
MLM.
Can I love you?
Multi-level marketing.
Give me
right.
$100.
That's
right.
right. I see the two as being like that. You
Okay.
know, for those who can't see that, just put my fingers
Joined your
together.
fingers, interlocked your fingers.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I see. Yeah. So I have a ministry to Christian business owners and entrepreneurs.
Got
currently.
it.
And before we get there, let's get the backstory. So
Okay.
Mike Hatch grew up in...
Yeah. Well, started out in the South Hills of Pittsburgh.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
First 10 or so years of my life. And then we moved to St. Clairsville, Ohio, about an hour and a half or so southwest
That's
of
a
here.
suburb of Bel Air.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. How did you know gonna do that?
I know my area. I
Bel
know.
Air was like our arch rival in high school.
And is
okay?
the lower socioeconomic. It's the
yes.
it is the Pitcairn to
Yes.
Franklin Regional.
The other side of the tracks.
Yes. Yeah. St. Clairsville was known as Snob Hill. So it's the county seat for Belmont County. So anyway, lived there, through high school. That was where I got involved in Young Life at first, was when I was in high school there.
We're all learning something. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Why
good
did
friend.
you get involved in Young Life, though? Were you raised in church? Was it something that surprised you that you were involved in?
Yeah, a little bit at first. So yeah, I was raised in church. My father was in professional ministry for a long time, very prominent figure in Pittsburgh, actually, for a while in the 80s. And
Dick Hatch.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Sorry if I blew up your spot.
That's
there.
okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. No, I still always run into people who
My parents
remember him.
knew him.
Yeah.
He interviewed them.
Oh, really? Oh, very cool. What were your parents' names? What were?
Ron and Sally Herr. I mean,
Okay. No.
He'll
long,
remember them.
long story.
I
yeah.
was younger then. I was, I don't know, 10 years old or 10 or 12 when the ministry folded and we ended up moving, something like that. So I have very vague recollections, but also very interesting upbringing being in that environment. So, yeah, so in high school and previously to that, my parents had a fairly tumultuous marriage. And by the time we got to high school, that was when it got really bad. And
How was that for you?
Oh,
Because you're in
man.
high school. You're not an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
You understands the relation. You understands. Why did I be?
You understand.
Why did I become Letterkenny? He understands his relationships. But
Yeah.
so around how long in your mind was it not perfect? Because you grow up thinking, oh, my parents' marriage is normal and perfect and fine.
Yeah.
When did the first alarm bell go off that you were like, this isn't normal, this isn't good? And then what was it like for
That's a
you when it
really
got
good
real
question.
bad?
Oh, boy. That's a really good question.
That's why I asked you. I didn't know the answer.
So when did I think, or when did it get bad? Man, I can't put my finger
there
on
any,
it.
like-
It feels,
Are there any benchmark moments oh, that was the birthday that, or that was the time when mom took a shot at dad, or I'm pretty sure that didn't happen, which
there-
is why I said that.
there weren't that I actually, believe it or not, no. I feel like the anger and the argumentativeness between them, and in many ways kind of abusive, like it would get violent sometimes. There'd be, it would get pretty bad. But it progressively got worse, especially when we got into St. Clairsville. My dad had a heart attack, a massive heart attack previously to that. And that had a huge impact, of course.
How old
on
were
him.
you at the time when you had the heart attack?
I was about 12
Ugh.
years old. Yeah. It was
Scary?
yeah. Oh yeah. That was so okay, so let me back up. That's the story that you'll probably enjoy hearing. So we were camping out in the Appalachian Plateau. My parents owned about 5 acres of land out in Somerset.
Oh yeah.
And we were out there in a literally, there's nothing there for miles and miles out in the middle of nowhere. We had a tractor with a trailer on back that we would take back. We literally, after we first bought the property, had to blaze a trail back to the property and then continue to keep it up. Like we'd have machetes out. Really cool thing for a kid, right?
Yeah.
We'd have machetes and just go nuts in the
Yeah.
woods. So fun. But my dad, that very evening, we had friends with us out there. We were all camping out together. My dad had been doing some things. He wanted to build a cabin there in the woods, and our friends were out there kind of helping him to do this. And I was being a stupid kid. I can't remember exactly specifically what happened, but I was definitely in some way being irresponsible and embarrassing my parents, especially my dad. Now, little did I know something was going on under the surface in terms of his heart physically. But he got so annoyed and angry at me, he pulled me aside, and I'll never forget the finger pointing in my face saying, I am ashamed that you're my son.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a
yeah.
punch to the gut.
It was
you're
a punch
12
to the gut.
or
Yeah, about
younger?
12.
Not impressionable, though, at that age.
Full immature.
It rolls right off you.
Yeah,
Right.
Understood.
Right. And then so it's night, it's dark out, and he sends me back on the path, which is about a quarter mile back up to the road, to go get something or do something up there. And so I'm literally crying in the dark on my way back. to the road,
I can't
feeling
imagine,
like my heart was
I
just
can't imagine you would.
chest.
There's probably not many other times in your life where you felt more alone. That had to be one of the most alone feelings ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Without a
Wow.
doubt. Now, let me also kind of preface this to say that my father later on, well, first of all, that very night, he had a massive heart attack and nearly died. So again, something was happening below the surface, literally physically. He was a smoker.
Well, no, it's not. And I want to make sure that everybody knows this. In any time any of us share anything, we're never saying that those who hurt us in our lives were maniacal and trying to hurt us. Like nobody ever, rarely, is trying to.
Yeah.
And in his case, he had a lot going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, I didn't find out that he was having a heart attack until later, till I saw the lights of the tractor coming up the path. And
So you're still on the, like...
I'm out on the main road with some other younger friends of mine that were kids of my family friends. And we were there. I think I was told to wait, if I remember correctly. I was supposed to wait there for some reason. And so we were there waiting, and the tractor lights come up, and it was like an hour or so later. And my dad was packed in sleeping bags on this trailer on the back of the tractor.
Gosh.
And they pulled him off, and I remember we had one of those Chevy Astro vans, You pull the door back, and they lifted him up and put him into the Astro van, and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And so my dad called me over, and I went over, and he said, I don't think he told me he was having a heart attack. I think he said, I have to go to the hospital. I need you to be the man of the family
You're like,
right now.
wait a minute. Just a
I thought
few
you
moments ago.
Weren't, you weren't proud of me.
Thank you, because I was debating whether or not to say that. It's the same night.
Same night.
An hour later.
Yes, about an hour or so later. Yeah, so he was rushed off to the hospital, nearly died. I think he's been living on borrowed time ever since. A third of his heart became scar tissue.
Wow.
Later, I don't
So
know, a
he's
week
still
or
alive.
still alive. Yep. With the help of, like, I don't know what you call it on your
Monkey
heart,
heart.
pacemaker stuff. Things like that. But I remember going to the hospital a week or so later, and my dad just bawling, crying about how he had spoken to me and apologized to me at that point in time. And
But let me ask you about that moment.
yeah,
Because you got a lot going on. You just had your lowest moment, arguably followed by your scariest moment,
yeah,
because
right.
dad might die, everything else. And then a week later, your dad's weeping to you.
Yeah.
In that moment, were you like, "Dadgum right, you're sad," or were you like, "Wait, this is even worse," or or I don't know what to feel like right now?
It felt awkward. It did to me at that moment. It felt very awkward.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot for a 12. It's a busy week for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Awkward
Very
in
much.
awkward in you that you didn't receive it, or what do you mean?
I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know how to receive it.
Because you were still really hurt.
I was hurt. Yeah.
You had to have been.
Absolutely.
Hurt, scared.
And it's interesting because his need for security, his emotional score on security was a -1.
Lowest one he
It's his
has.
lowest one, which I would think after that, like that kind of incident,
Interesting.
it would be higher. But it sounds like you've been able to work through or heal. I mean, that certainly didn't contribute to a higher score of needing for security. Maybe other things in your life also.
Well, introducing that, would you say that you lived in a very secure life growing up?
Oh no, absolutely not. No, I had, because it was always fairly tumultuous at home. So there was a moment where my mom ended up going away to a what do you call it, psychological facility or psychiatric facility. There's just always some upheaval, always some kind of.
You moved a couple different times.
Moved a lot actually in Pittsburgh, around the South Hills area.
Oh,
when
even
we
once you
lived
got
there.
here.
Oh yeah.
My point is, but like in your growing up years,
Yes.
it was South Hills, then it was St.
Right.
Clairsville.
Yep.
And so that goes to, we have either high emotional needs or low emotional needs because that need was always met or it was never meant.
Oh yeah, no,
You know, it's sort of like the joke we always make is Rachel with affection. You know, she had no affection growing up, no desire for it now.
interesting. Yeah,
And so you had no security. So you're like, yeah, I'm used to that.
yeah, in a sense, that's true. So I always felt like I was kind of on my own. Like it's up to me. It's up to me. So I was quick to move out after high school, you know, just a year or so into college, and moved in with a friend of mine, and it just felt better. Like I would do better on my own without having to depend on someone else. But that's also an Achilles heel for sure.
And so your dad says that to you, and does that sort of close that chapter, like with him?
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, that does. That's pretty good.
And you just went, well, this feels awkward. All right, see you later.
Yeah, it did. Looking back, maybe it's because it felt like it was, at the moment, it felt like it was more about him than it was me.
That's a great point. Did you recognize that at the time?
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't. I don't think I would until like now, or in fact, I probably haven't thought about it until just now as we've
Yeah.
been talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're like, all right, Dad, did you get that off your chest?
Yeah. Yes. That's exactly right.
And yet you're still, I don't want to say invisible, but like it's still, because when he's screaming and yelling at you, saying, I've never been more disappointed in you, is he really even talking about you? Or is he getting other things off his chest and you just got it landed on you?
That's probably accurate that he's getting, because even through the divorce, I became, for my dad. So when your parents go through a divorce, typically, especially when I was in high school, it's very black and white. My dad was a good guy, mom was a bad guy, as far as I was concerned. And so I draw close to my dad during that time, and he would absolutely, confide in me about things, share things about his past and their past as in marriage, and my mom's past that I never wanted to know, you know?
We call that enmeshed.
Look at you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was ready for
Yep.
Eric to just throw in a bleh.
Which gets even more complicated when in college, I start waking up to the fact that both of my parents played a significant role in the divorce. I begin to, because through the divorce, I was with my dad, and my mom I kind of dismissed and wasn't around. So I started to reconcile with my mom in college. Well, my dad took that as a stab in the back because so
Went over to that side.
yeah, exactly. And
Betrayal.
There's all and there's all sorts of really complicated issues there with that relationship with my dad now as a result.
And so you're saying once you started realizing, oh wait, mom's not the worst, and not, did you ever swing to, oh wait, it's dad's the worst? And then did you finally come to, oh wait, everybody's the worst?
Yeah.
Or did you go right to everybody's the worst?
No, that's
And by
interesting.
everybody's the worst means
Yeah.
everybody is mutually culpable for the breakdown of the relationship.
Yes. No, I think that's where I ended up. I don't think I swung over to the other side
Sure.
completely. I started out, it's interesting, I started out like when I was in high school saying, I'm not taking sides, right? No way. They're not forcing us to take sides. And I would talk to my brother and sister. We're not taking
you
sides.
had siblings too.
Yeah, I was the oldest. So, of course, I feel this weight of responsibility to try to hold
Man
the
of the
family
house at
together.
12.
Yeah, right. And so that, man, when, I just lost my train of thought. So,
You didn't swing back.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah, I
going to
didn't
choose
swing
sides
back.
in high school.
right, no, I think I just came to a realization that, wow, they both played a role in this. And, yeah, everybody is culpable. Yeah.
How was it with your siblings? As far as like, were you the big brother
that's
or were
really
you
messy.
an independent sibling during those years?
So I was the big brother more for my brother. My brother and I are close. We're 2 years apart. And then my younger sister, she's 4 years below me. So she's the last born. And so my brother and I were always closer. And so my sister kind of clung to my mom during that time and was very close with her. So I'd say and during that time was really when my sister and I, in our relationship, honestly was not ever really great growing up with my sister. Didn't have a really great relationship. But at that point in time, it really began to gap. And, but my brother and I were closer. And it was kind of like being, going through something really difficult together. You know how that kind of bonds you together in a way? So my brother and I, my dad kind of bonded through that experience. which is why when I began to reconcile with my mom, that it was such a big deal. So,
And did that sever or hamper your relationship with your brother?
yes,
Oh,
yes, for a
man.
time it absolutely did. Yep, right around the time I was getting married to Lisa, because she, you know how when your wife comes into your life and suddenly you have these new eyes to see things in your family and the world around you differently. And man, it was suddenly I'm like, I am not crazy. Oh my gosh. Like, you are so affirming. Like, you just said something that I've kind of thought, but was afraid to bring
Because
out.
why would you have the confidence to actually think it?
Yep.
No, I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's ever believed enough in me, and I've always just been the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I'm either the problem or I'm a disappointment in the solution. You know, because you're supposed to be the
Yeah.
man of the house, and you're 12.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to be a very good man of the house at 12, so I disappointed you.
Yeah.
And I'm ashamed of you, so you're a failure.
I always, for most of my young life, felt like a disappointment. Absolutely.
Is that why your need for encouragement is the most high? Like his need for encouragement is the most high, and I'm wondering where that came from and what shaped that.
Because you didn't get a lot of it.
No. Well,
Well, would you care to talk about, like, define once again what encouragement is?
Sure. I mean, just encouragement is having somebody come alongside you and say, I believe in you. You can do it. You know, its sister is support, which is let me help you do it, which is, you know, actually getting in there and helping you with it. So encouragement is just kind of what it says. So did you receive a lot of that growing up?
it would maybe spiritually in some ways, like my parents. I'm just
No, it's so funny because, again, we're not a Christian podcast. We're Christians who do a podcast. He goes spiritually. We all go, oh, boy. Here we go. Another Christian on the podcast.
Well, it sounds kind of like your wife came alongside you with that, those
yeah.
eyes to see, and that was an encouragement to you to
yes.
take the blinders off and kind of see with different lenses.
And how did you guys meet? I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
I was gonna say,
Hey, Eric's here.
hey, I'm here.
Very silent.
I was gonna say, because one of the other emotional needs that you scored high on was approval / belonging, which I also feel like those moments probably impacted that as well.
Right. So belonging is that I matter and I fit in somewhere. You
Yeah.
know, it's
so
not
I
so
have
much,
a high need for that. Is what you're
that
saying.
was your second highest.
It was just, one of your
Okay.
second highest.
You know,
yeah.
that it matters that I,
Yep.
yeah, that I'm a part of this organization or I'm part of this family
Yes.
and I fit in and I belong.
Yep. Definitely. I
Yeah.
can affirm that. Yeah.
When earlier Jay said that you're his guy, your face lit up in a certain way, and it's probably,
Of course. Yeah.
hey,
guy.
I'm in with Jay.
Oh, absolutely. That means a ton. That means a ton. Yes. Yeah. And like when I was in Young Life, you know, and again, my dad, so early on in college, as I'm doing Young Life, or actually mid-college anyway, my dad is still reeling from the divorce. And my mom and I are not in good terms. So
Now you're a man with no home because he's still bitter that you ever entertained mom's
Oh,
side.
yeah.
But mom's not doing well. So
yep, I am living on my own, and my dad and I start to drift apart. I moved out, and I thought like my dad would maybe stop by my apartment every so often and say hi, but he didn't, and so that was really disappointing to me, you know. And so, yeah, in a sense, when someone like you came along, or in high school, when my Young Life leader, Buck Gray, Jay knows Buck, yes.
Buck's great. Buck
Man,
is great.
he
Anybody named Buck is great.
Okay, ready? Picture Buck? Yeah, that's him.
That's so funny you say that. Yeah. He looks very interesting. No, but
He looks like a buck.
I ate it up. Man, I ate it up. The encouragement that he.
But see, that's the beauty of what God does. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I knew Mike. He was one of those superstars because he wasn't on staff and yet he was running a club. That's like, wow, that's awesome. He's not getting paid. He's just doing it because he loves kids and he wants them to know Christ. And he came to me and he was like, Jay, you know, could we meet? And so we'd meet a couple times. And then he said to me once, he goes, would you mentor me? And I said, well, what do you mean by that? Do you remember this conversation?
I don't remember this conversation.
Oh,
That's so funny.
This is who this is about.
This is who it is.
Okay. I know this
man.
conversation.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even there.
And I said, if I mentor you, I tell you what to do. I said, if I disciple you, I have to bring you along slowly until you figure out for yourself what's the right thing to do. I don't have time to disciple you, but I will mentor you. And you went, that's good. And so we would meet, and I would tell you what to do.
I do actually vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it was
that
terrible,
delineation.
terrible ministry, but yet it was honest, at least.
That was great.
And here you are 20 years later.
So let's go to Lisa.
Yeah. Lisa and I met when I was end of my college year at Orchard Hill Church. I was on staff there, and it's a church in the North Hills of Pittsburgh, for those who aren't from here.
Heard of it?
And so, met her there. We became friends, and then it was as if like our relationship went to being dating, but we didn't. It was one of those weird things where we didn't know. There wasn't a DTR. There was no defining the relationship. We just suddenly sitting on the couch somewhere, and Lisa kisses me.
Really?
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, she.
That never gets to happen. Not when you want it to. If I had $1 for every other thing, but
Yep.
Every other time.
Yep, absolutely. She just went at it, and that was it. So, yeah. There was a part of me that felt bad. There was another part of me that was like, no, I don't feel bad at all.
why'd you
I
feel
kind of
bad?
enjoy this.
Because you didn't.
I wasn't the one that initiated. That was why initially I felt bad. But
What do you say,
Again,
Jay?
you weren't
Any
the
port in
man.
storm?
Yeah. What'd you say?
I said, again, you weren't the man.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. But it's twofold. Because on the one hand, he didn't have the confidence to take that step forward,
Right.
or to. And why
oh
would he?
yeah, I lacked confidence with women a ton. Yeah, because I was so desperate for the approval, and then I would be fearful to put myself out there because I might get
Rejection.
exactly.
Ugh, that's the worst.
Yep.
But what I find to be very significant about that moment specifically is you went through your life and it wasn't about you. Because you were bounced back and forth between your parents. Even in the most traumatic week of your life, it wasn't about you. You were a disappointment to your dad. You were, he was ashamed by you.
Yeah.
Then you were ill-equipped for a task that you are not called to do in being the man of the house. And then you're supposed to comfort your dad when he weeps and breaks down in front of you. Had nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it did feel as if that I was definitely put in this place, like I said, of him confiding in me. My mom
Then you
would
go back,
also,
right.
and so I'm like this counselor role or parental role to my parents in a sense.
Yeah.
That I
And
shouldn't
you
have been.
move out and nobody stops by. And so now, why? Well, because that was your life. It wasn't about you. And so now in this moment, she makes it about you.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Lisa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and let's talk about this. So that had to have felt encouraging, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Two, her, getting to that point, you guys are friends. She kisses you. That kind of puts the nail of approval in there. You belong.
Yeah.
And then your third highest emotional need is affection. Like your mind just must have exploded at that point. Like, this is it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You would almost say
right.
on Orchard Hill things were blossoming.
That might be the worst moment in our podcast history. Right there.
I'll take credit for it. I'm proud of it. I own it.
He actually started journaling that day, and it was, Dear Diary, this was the best thing that has ever happened in my life. I committed my life to Christ years ago, but now I know he is real.
Yeah, I was in at that point, and it was so natural. Also, do you guys have any like background on like birth order and how that affects couples and who you are as a person? Because me being a firstborn and Lisa being a lastborn is significant in the world of Dr. Kevin Lehman, who is the birth order. You guys remember him, Dr. Kevin Lehman? Okay.
I'm not a learned man.
Was that in one of their books?
He wrote
I feel like I read a book from him.
Yes.
No, but it makes sense though, because like the firstborn, like parents are extra careful. it's the first time with everything.
Yeah.
By the time it gets to the third or fourth, they're like, whatever, let him crawl in the dirt. It's fine. So
right.
definitely there's got to be just natural differences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
And specific to your case.
it's right. I'll save the details, but basically we get along very well as a result of that. And based on that foundation of friendship, our marriage was built, and that was huge. That was
Interesting.
huge. Yeah.
Mike, we have a good 13 minutes left that we could fill 2 hours with.
Yeah.
Where would you like? Do you want to go to your professional life? Do you want to go to the impetus for your book and what happened throughout different moments in there? Do you want to go to what you're doing now? Because I think people have gotten a good understanding of who you teased us a little bit with a church hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's your time here at the table, and we want to make sure that the people get to see Mike for who he is and what's important on his heart.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
We can also just ride it out and ask dumb questions like, what was classy frozen pizza growing up?
Oh gosh, classy frozen pizza.
Or what was the go-to frozen pizza?
Yeah, I don't even know that question, but
Wow.
you're distracting me.
Well, that's what I do.
So yeah,
That's why I'm not very good at what I do.
Carpeted bathroom?
Carpet?
or
Do you ever have carpet in your bathroom?
no.
It's a high-class
All
guy
right,
over
there
here.
it
That's St.
is.
Clairsville right there. Get out of here with that Bel Air bathroom.
That is
Excuse me,
gross.
Blair,
Yes, Blair.
not Bel Air.
Your book's called Manhood with a subtitle.
Yes,
which I
manhood
can't read.
empowered by the light of the gospel. Yeah. So
We'll link to it in the show notes of the episode. So.
Please do.
Yep.
thanks for that.
Sure.
So it is. Yeah. It's first of all, it's a nice short book.
I read
because it's written for men, and men typically don't read. But it's this. Yeah, a little bit about my story, because all of this led to, which we actually didn't get to.
No, we didn't.
My addiction to pornography that nearly destroyed my marriage before it started. And Jay was played a huge role in that as well.
Could have been better.
So basically, we had gotten, I'm taking a detour a little bit here. So my wife and I had gotten an apartment together. She was living separately, but we moved all of our stuff in so that when we got married, bam, we're just in and done.
Back in the old days, they used to do that. Live in separate places
Separate
before they got
places.
married.
That's right, we did.
But
So but the computer was there. I had just kind of entered into the world of the internet, discovered pornography in that world.
there's
and
no porn on the internet. What are you talking about?
You must have Covenant eyes on your computer. You're locked out of it. Is that?
Wow, he even knows program.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. So all the time in the world, to be on the computer and her not be there, and literally one day,
Before that day,
yeah,
where's your conviction level?
it was high, because I was seeing a counselor at the time about that issue. I knew it was a problem. I knew that was something I needed to deal with.
And what was the impact on you? Like-
Oh man, that's okay. The impact
On your own sense of self-esteem, self-worth.
Oh, it was terrible. I felt like a phony, a fake. I felt like, but I had, I was an addict for approval, really good at people pleasing, and it was all about like putting on a face, like the way I describe it in the book is acting like I own the place, putting on that air of confidence, to fool everybody, to make it look like I got it together. And so, yeah, so I was struggling for sure. When she walked in, and I'm literally on the computer looking at porn, she walks in and just everything blows up, right? She threw the ring back at me. She threw 2 Bibles at me.
Oh,
And
I don't remember that part of the story.
told me I just committed adultery and walked out. And you're just sitting there on the couch, just feeling like, the only way I can describe it is falling into this deep pit with no end in sight, and nothing, like you just can't catch your breath and nothing to hold on to.
Well,
And
the most important person in your life has just taken away all encouragement and belonging. She's not encouraging you.
Not
in that
taking it
activity.
away. Not taking it away, because that makes it sound like she did something. Like the only source is now gone. Is the
Oh,
way I
yeah.
would put
Right.
that.
Oh, that's a great way of saying it, because what ran through my mind at the time, I'll never forget it. I can't go to my dad right now. I can't go to my mom. There's nobody I can
Now
go to
I'm very alone again.
until I reached out to Jay at some point.
Do you remember where we went?
I don't. Where did we go?
Taco Bell, Edgewood Sound Center.
Did we really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how bad he had it going. So
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to the book is, it tells us a little bit of the story of my coming out of that addiction and the way God worked in me to free me from that. Really, that was him pushing me into the light. And I talk about the difference between walking in the dark versus walking in the light. And as men, we struggle with that. We don't want to be found out. And so in that moment, everything I was hiding and most ashamed of came spilling out on the table for everybody to see.
And I love the fact that now, like when I read your book and I know your story, and I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the second page. I'm like, oh, so there it is. Okay. So it really is. It's just
Getting right into it.
Like God spilled it out, and you're like, well, let me tip the jar a little bit. But
Yeah.
it's that freedom that you have because the focus isn't on the sin.
Yeah.
It's on the salvation or the grace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but what I think one of the many beauties of this whole thing is, like you said, I did everything. I owned the room. I performed. I was a people pleaser. But even in all those things, it's about them. You're trying to
Yep.
do it for yourself. Go ahead.
So no, that's a great. So here's interestingly, I found this out through the Enneagram. We all good with the Enneagram?
We're
Anybody
Christians.
weird about it?
Go on.
Okay. Some people are weird about it.
That's why I said
Even
we're Christians. We don't do
that. Okay. Maybe you'll appreciate the truth that came out of it then. So I learned that I have this weird idea that people will understand my needs and just meet them, but proactively, I go out to try to meet other people's needs, hardcore. So I want to help. Let me help. Whatever I can do, let me help. Let me be there for you. Whatever. And the idea is, I'm doing it so that I will hopefully get that reciprocated.
You're giving what you want.
Exactly. Giving what I want. That's exactly right. And so I learned some really twisted motives inside me though with regard to that. Obviously I'm trying to meet that deep need that to be for approval and for belonging and encouragement. I'm hoping to get it through that. Yeah.
How much do you think the enemy used your addiction to further damage you as far as here you are doing all these good things for people? And then so when they do something good for you and say, Mike Hatch is a great guy, you have the anchor to say, oh, if you really knew. Oh, if you really knew what I was
that's
up
true.
to. So that inwardly, I can still be hurt.
Yep.
And I can never be whole.
Yep. Now, I became kind of bifurcated in my, you know what I mean?
You want to break that word down again? Because I'll just speak on behalf of at least Eric, if not bifurcated.
or compartmentalized. I would.
Were you there with that?
I heard a word.
I began to
got
live.
us a learning man on the
I began to live a double life.
Sure.
So I was good at kind of pushing that off and ignoring that and focusing on, oh man, aren't I great because of how people feel about me? And that never left. I mean, the other side never left. It was always there, kind of like you said, prodding at me like an anchor. But man, I did my darndest to avoid having to acknowledge it.
And you never went into alcohol or drugs to numb it or, yeah.
No, I didn't. Nope. It was straight porn. That was it. Yeah. No other substance.
I don't know why I have to. No. So, God redeemed the relationship, and God got you
Yes.
to a point in relatively short order. Yes, where you're like, oh, people can know me at my worst and still love me.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that. So, and that was what was so powerful. So, being in the light, having all this stuff out there for everybody to see,
And
then-
again, you're working at Orchard Hill Church,
Right.
You're living a public life at this point.
Yeah.
In a tight knit circle.
Right. And I would say there are folks. I know one pastor, particularly at Orchard Hill, that played a huge role in helping me through this process, and then. Our Danny Parker, a men's ministry guy at the time, plugged me into a CLC group. It was the first time I got to be with a group of men who were willing to be vulnerable and transparent. And I felt
CLC
safe.
being
Christ-led communities. It's
Go
a
on.
men's discipleship ministry. And I mean, that was transformative. I had not experienced anything like that prior. the closest thing was just the counseling that I'd gone to up until that point. And so that was where I began to get, a footing in terms of understanding my true identity in Christ. So the way I'll just share this, the three main points of the book are that when we step into the light, and basically there are three main things. We are known by God, we are grown by God, and owned by God. And so the known by God obviously is the identity piece. And that was huge for me, obviously, like I just described. Being known just because we're meant to be in community, we understand that. Literally the presence of God resides in each one of us. And so as you speak to me and I speak to you, like God is present with us, in us, and speaks through us and encourages our hearts. And I just had not experienced that before. So known by God, then grown by God was understanding that it wasn't about the effort that I put forth. It was more about entrusting myself to God in the process that he has for me to grow me, basically. Again, I came from that performance-driven mentality. So what do I do? What can I accomplish? What can I call my own? And how do I get credit for it, right? I had to let go of all of that and allow the Holy Spirit, Philippians 2:13, for it is God who works in you to will and to act according to his good purpose. Sorry, I got Christian again.
No, that part's okay.
Okay.
God's word's always accepted. It's the Christianese we don't like.
Okay. And then owned by God, I mean, you think of the woman at the well. For me, that's a beautiful example. She left the jar, which in some ways symbolized her pursuits, her to fill the void in her that were illegitimate. And obviously, not obviously, maybe people don't know this, but she was there at the well with Jesus alone because she was avoiding everybody else in the town, specifically the women, didn't want to be ridiculed for the very sketchy life that she was living. And so she had been avoiding everybody. Meanwhile, when she came into the light, in a sense, and Jesus revealed who he was to her, she suddenly, I think the Holy Spirit grasped her, and she was owned by God, and she was moved into the city.
She ran to everybody.
Yes, ran to the very people she had been spending most of her life avoiding. And so that's what I found in my life, that suddenly, instead of walking in the dark, avoiding the light, now suddenly God is moving me to share with other men. And it became that mantra for me in my discipleship in Young Life, men's ministry, and now in the work that I do now with Christian business owners is, the way I say it is to walk in the light as he is in the light in order to be a light for the glory of God. And so those are three main points. I unpack them obviously a little bit in the book, but that's the main idea.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That was a heck of a summary. Yeah. It really was. Because, I mean,
Good.
It is a testimony to one of the key components of any successful relationship at any level, whether it be husband and wife, parents, children, friends, is to be open and honest and vulnerable. And, that was what you were forced into, and that God used, when we say forced, that's one of the beauties of God, that he allowed you to sin to bring you to a place you never would have found, both in your marriage, but also in your walk with him, and then your ministry, which is now not about pleasing people, but saving people from their own darkness.
Yep.
In my
Absolutely.
opinion. I'm grateful for part one of Mike Hatch.
Yeah, we got to have you back. That was great.
Cool. I'm very affirmed.
How can people
fellas.
find you?
I feel very approved of right now. Sorry.
How can people find you?
Yeah. Okay. So you can, let me see here. I've got a YouTube channel, Redemptive Economics. You can go to redemptiveeconomics.com. That's my website. I'm on LinkedIn. Definitely find me there. I'm on Twitter a little bit. Those are some of the primary places.
Awesome.
We can link to them in the show notes.
We'll do that.
Yep.
We're grateful for you to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
having me,
Mike.
guys.
That's it for episode 261. Join us live next Wednesday at 8:45 for episode 262. Between now and then, please do give us a like or follow on social media and visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com. And again, while there, take our relational needs questionnaire. Thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome.
See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.